So today I want to talk about a significant shift that happened to my photography journey. So my name is Amir and I've been doing this for more than 8 years. I work in documentary filmmaking and photography. I've dedicated 2 solid years of that journey to purely street photography. But then at some point I wanted a change. This isn't about declaring that one style is superior to the other. And I've seen that online, there's a larger debate around street photographers talking about stuff and documentary photographers talking about stuff. And I think it's one of those things that go hand in hand. It's not, you can be, if you are an amazing street photographer, you can become an amazing documentary photographer and vice versa. There's a lot of transferable skills in these two genres, but I think the process is way different and the impact on yourself is way different. So today I want to share 3 main benefits that I discovered during this transition. So benefit number 1, depth of connection. In street photography, interactions are fleeting. You capture the moment, some time without even the subject noticing, and then, you move on to the next thing. There's a certain purity to this approach, and it can yield, some stunning, authentic moments. But there's rarely time, to develop like a certain relationship or connection with the subject. With documentary projects, everything changes. You spend days, weeks, sometimes even, months or years with your subject, and my current projects lend me into homes, lend me into, some workspaces, community places, in some cities that I've never thought of, being able to access if I wasn't doing this type of, craft. The hit and run approach in the common street photography doesn't always, give you a greater access to, more fully fledged stories, in a way. So when people understand your project and choose to participate, they become collaborators more so than a subject. They will offer you insights, they can suggest new locations, and they can really help you develop the narrative you want to tell. This deeper connection also creates images with layers of meaning that might not be apparent to casual viewers, but resonate deeply with the people in them. So the photos become a shared creation rather than something taken. Does that make any sense? Benefit number 2. The second benefit is the ability to craft cohesive visual narratives that tell complex stories across multiple images. Street photography taught me how to create single, powerful images that stand on their own. But documentary work has taught me how images speak to each other, how sequencing, visual motifs, and thematic elements can build a story much greater than the sum of its parts. So this approach transforms how you shoot. You're not just looking for decisive moment, you're building a visual vocabulary specific to your subject. You might photograph seemingly mundane details simply because they can complete an important part of the narrative. So it really forces you to be very mindful, very patient, and that will create some form of resilience in you, artistic resilience. Also, quicker note. Where I live, it's strictly illegal to take photographs in the streets. Even if you're a journalist and you have like a journalist pass or something like that, you need to be alerting the authorities and getting approval and explaining in detail what's the story you're working on before going out there and take images, especially images of strangers in the street. And we have a new law as well. If your images are critiquing or are subject to documenting anything that is related to the government, if you're photographing an old abandoned school, or if you're photographing something that can reflect even the slightest negatively on the government, you will be jailed. So it's one of those things that you need to take into account. This is one of the reasons also why I want to perhaps only work on documentary projects because if I'm taking photographs on a private land or a private property, it's 100% legal, and yeah, I can, have that part of my head that always, thinking, okay, is there a cop showing up? Is there what's going on? That part of the brain, I'd rather have that CPU and GPU power going through the creative buildup rather than just, being thinking about will I be spending the night in jail or not. So it depends also where you live. I hear people in the US, they can take photographs in the street, but I've seen a lot of people getting punched in the face if you Bruce Gilden it, in a way. Anyhow, and benefit number 3, knowledge expansion and intellectual growth. How documentary projects force you to expand knowledge far beyond photography itself. This is also a subject I would love to make just a video for it, because especially nowadays, if you want to be a great storyteller, a great visual storyteller, as I say it, you don't just need to be great at this as taking the camera and putting the correct settings and being able to compose amazing images, but you need to be amazing at learning and developing a deep knowledge about any subject very quickly, because there's a demand of an intellectual engagement with your subject matter. For example, for my current project, I had to study history, economics, geopolitics, urban development, cultural shifts, and industrial changes. You need to be able to learn and track data on all of those things and know how to analyze them so that you can take those findings and translate them in a visual format. You see how this is very complicated, I know, but it's really fun to think about, and it also makes you much more aware of a person. So you are aware of your surrounding, you know exactly what's going on, and especially you would know things that the media won't even portray. Understanding the historical significance of a neighborhood changes what details you notice. Knowing the economic challenges facing a community helps you recognize significant moments. You become not just a better photographer, but a more informed citizen. The knowledge you gain through documentary projects enriches your understanding of the world in ways that transcend photography entirely. Going back to street photography, what does actually street photography offer? Street photography remains one of the best ways, I believe, to learn photography in the first place. It really is the number one photography genre that helps anyone build core photographic skills. It trains your eye for composition at lighting speeds, teaches you how to work with available light, understand how light works in almost all different conditions. It hones your timing and instinct like few other genres can. The constraints of street photography, like working quickly, often with minimal gear, sometimes even like a smartphone or like a small prime lens, in super uncontrolled situations. Sometimes you never know what you'll be getting in front of the camera. It definitely creates a photographer who can adapt to anything. That's a great skill to have, being able to adapt to any circumstance that you might find, especially in documentary scenario. So I don't just apply what I learned in street photography in photographic terms, but since I do films as well, and I shoot video almost the same way I take photograph. It's the same mindset, it's the same way of composition, it's the same way of finding moments. Being able to adapt to whatever circumstance you are in, it's such a great skill to have. And I've seen it also if you do some work in fiction. I think any director will greatly appreciate you as a DP if you have that kind of, photographic visual mindset. Street photography also gives you that creative freedom that documentary photography usually doesn't. You can shoot purely for aesthetics, for the joy of light and shadow, without needing to fulfill a broader narrative purpose. There's a wonderful purity to that approach where you're just taking pictures, for the joy of it, just for whatever purpose, because you enjoy it and you're having fun. And that's especially for beginners. That's exactly why you should be taking photographs, just for the fun of it, because this is one of the funnest activities, one of the funnest hobbies that you can have. So even if you've been doing this for years and you start to do this professionally and you're thinking about the accolades and about the clients, once in a while, if you just do this for the pure joy of it, it gives you such a satisfactory feeling at the end of the day. So thank you so much for watching, and remember, whether you're capturing fleeting moments in the streets or building a multi-year documentary project, what matters is that your work speak truth as you see it. See you next time, my friend. Cheers.